All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bucks of America podcast. I am your host, Jeff Vance, and this episode is going to be a fun one here because Carson and I have done a podcast with another group of guys here a few weeks back, and we decided we hit it off and we figured like, hey, let's do one on my podcast so we can go from there. Now, this podcast we're going to be just talking about what's going on in Idaho. We're going to be talking about Carson. He's an active duty service member, so thank you for your service, sir. And
thanks for paying taxes, man.
You're very welcome. So we're going to talk about his all upbringing, about hunting and his current spring bear hunt, and talk about some of his trials and tribulations. But we're going to let him kind of take the reins and go for whatever direction he wants to go. Now, the best part is he could talk just like me, so I am not worried about the conversation drying up. So, man, Carson, tell us about who you are. Tell us your story.
What's up, guys? My name is Carson Grigg. I'm a Southern boy by heart. I grew up in northeastern Texas, around College Station area, hunting pigs and whitetail my entire life. I'm the true definition of white trash, just as they come. Hunting possums, coons, squirrels, you name it, everything from whitetail deer and hogs down in Texas, up to Barbary sheep over in western Texas and mule deer in western Texas. Now I live up north and I hunt elk, mule deer, antelope, bear, you name it. I've had a few close calls with some mountain lions here recently up here.
Shit.
Yeah, man. It's gnarly up here. They are getting brave. I don't know if they're just hungry or what, but it was also turkey season, and I can't remember if we talked about this on the podcast with Jeff or not, Jim or not, but it was we had some decoys set out. And we're sitting there calling, and we get up to pack up our decoys, just about getting to where we're tired of sitting there. Everyone has that hunt when you get skunked, and we weren't hearing any birds chirping. We weren't hearing any squirrels. We should have known better that something was in the area. And we get just over the crest, and about 30 yards in front of us is the biggest tomcat I've ever seen in my life. Wow. It was a toad, man, a monster. That 20 gauge TSS I shot at him didn't even phase him. He was very upset that we were there. He didn't back down at all until my buddy with the 12 gauge TSS let him have it, and we saw some fur fly. But we didn't have any sidearms on us or nothing. We didn't expect to encounter anything like that. It's been, but the 2022 spring bear season has been an absolute bust for me and my friends. I guess we're in the wrong location. We have 3 bait barrels set out between us, and just nothing's touching them. Nothing's eating, nothing's touching them. And it could be because I'm just a bad hunter, or it could be the bears haven't quite woken up yet. I don't know. There's still quite a bit of snow up that direction. So.
Oh, yeah. Considering granted, it is June, but over here we're dealing with 90-degree heat. And up there, it's like you get high enough in the altitude, you're still seeing snow.
We've had a few days in the 80s down here, but I'm at 3,000 feet, but where our bait barrels are at 7, 6. So,
oh shit. So yeah, so it's a whole nother atmosphere up there.
Yeah, it's a whole nother ecosystem, and it's it dips down in the low 30s at night for sure. I wish I could tell you like, yeah, this is what I'm doing wrong, but if I could tell you those things, I would fix those problems. So we're just hoping to spot and stalk a few bears this year. We're gonna try. We got a few more weekends to get out and look around.
So when does your season end then?
Our season ends July 1st.
No shit, it runs that late into the year. That I would never have thought that, but then again, I haven't talked to anybody that actually goes spring bear hunting up in Idaho.
So different regions of Idaho, as all the public land regions, each region is different rules and regulations. So you have like unit 39 where we're at, it ends in July, and then you have unit 44 who ends in mid-June. So it depends on what Department of Fish and Game is really pushing, how many they've harvested and stuff like that. But from what I'm hearing, nobody's shooting shit out there. So badgers are moving around quite a bit out here. It's becoming an issue for some of the farmers and stuff like that. All the badgers coming in and biting their cows and getting angry and horny. So it just might get some varmint hunts here pretty quick.
So now, with your varmint hunts, then since you've been in the area for a minute, do you have people that reach out to you because you've met them face to face, or how does that work if you want to get out there and help out a farmer?
Well, so a lot of people have like the cowboys that work for these farmers and ranchers and stuff like that. The cowboys will normally help take care of it, and they have a few. They'll mostly call Idaho Fish and Game, and Idaho Fish and Game has their professional hunters that they'll call, and they'll be like, "Hey, we got a problem in this area with these amount of coyotes. They need to get rid of them," and the government will pay somebody to just go wipe them all out, and they never wipe them all out. Them coyotes are a very resourceful creature. You got to respect them for that. Their ability just to bounce back in population. It seems like once you kill one, two of them replace it. They're everywhere out here. You can't, to where I work, it's about a 20-minute drive on open plains, high desert. You can't drive to work dawn or dusk without seeing a coyote or a badger. It's impossible.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. I've seen a few coyotes around here during the daytime, but we usually, once it gets about daybreak, they tend to shut up real fast. That you'll see them walking around. Like the latest I've ever seen a coyote walking around was like 10 o'clock. But then again, we're very green, so it doesn't take much to watch them disappear.
Yeah, we don't have that luxury. We have a lot of sagebrush, not too much foliage and tree coverage and stuff like that. So they tend, when it starts to get hot, they dip down in their holes and stuff. But the rabbits are, I can't remember the term exactly, but deer and rabbits eat the same schedule, first light, last light kind of thing. They don't really move around at night and stuff like that. And so those coyotes tend to hunt in that window, those like right before dark and right before sunrise.
That's true. So, that is, I can see that. When I'm recalling some of my pictures on my trail cams, like that makes sense when I'm seeing them at that time frame when they're out there walking and eating. So I completely understand now. It's one of those things where it doesn't sink in until I actually talk about it out loud, and then there's like, oh, ta-da.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's what they've been doing. It's hard to put a pattern on animals, as a lot of animals as well, because some of them have such a wide range of what they're doing, and some of them are just crazy. So you'll notice an animal is just way out of his pattern or what his colleagues are doing. The other animals in his area that they're just like him, they're doing something completely different. I've seen coyotes run around at noon, but I've never seen a wolf run out in the middle of the day. I've never seen a wolf run out in the middle of the day. I've always seen them right before dark or right after the sunrise.
Yeah, even recalling, because we didn't have a wolf season this year in Wisconsin because a lot of antis bitched and moaned and then they caved to them. But when we did have a season last year, not a single one was shot at in the daytime. They were all shot at night, either right dusk or in the morning or throughout the day. It all depends if they were running dogs, if they were calling to. It played a role in where they were at too.
Idaho did the complete opposite of what your state did. Instead of listening to all the people bitching and moaning about, oh, you're killing the wolves, Idaho basically just opened season on them. They're giving out unlimited tags.
No shit.
Pick them up over the counter. If you see one, you kill one. That's the rule in Idaho.
Wow. Well, then again, it makes sense though, because before I hit record, we were discussing how expensive everything is for the livestock, and if a wolf takes down a couple of cows, you and I understand that they are serial killers of the wild. They'll kill for pleasure, and they'll wipe out an entire herd of elk and mule deer. They'll go after a couple of cattle if it's easy pickings. And then I don't know about you guys yet, but a lot of our cows are calving right now. So a lot of our farmers have been on high alert for making sure nothing comes in and gets after them.
So our cows have already dropped. They've already dropped. They're getting big. They're getting where they're running around. Our calves are, but it's not so much down where I am. That's not so much of a problem because like I said, we're open. We don't have much trees. We don't have much cover for the wolves. So they don't really come down off the mountains. The wolves in the southwestern part of Idaho where I live up in the mountains. They hunt elk predominantly. They're not too much of a problem on the herds down here, but up in northern Idaho, it's the opposite. Lots of trees, lots of coverage, lots of places where they can sneak in and out, lots of topography and stuff that they can just dip and disappear. They'll snag cows all day long, calves and cows entirely. They'll just in and out, just faster than you can blink an eye. And it's amazing, these power of these animals, just how as much as I hate them, you have to respect them. They're a perfect killing machine. They have been. It's more so the mountain lions down here eating people's pets. That's the issue that we have. The wolves are really smart. the elk in this mountain range, like right where I live, the elk will actually migrate down off the mountain, have their babies like in the fields. They'll have their babies in the fields because they know the wolves won't come at them where they're at. They'll have them in the fields. We've even had a few of them in the golf course here in town. The elk come down into the golf course and have their babies.
Hey, I'm all for. I'm all for that. Any way to get them out of them and get them on the land, get them walking, and then go from there. Say, hey, I'll be a little upset if I was the owner of the golf course, but hey, it's just they were there first.
Yeah, it's their land. We just stole it, man. We have a history of doing that, unfortunately. But it's just, yeah, it would be nice to be on hole 9 and fill a tag at the same time. But unfortunately, during the winter, they head up north. They head back up into the mountains. So, and I went camping. We went and stayed a couple of days up near the bait barrels and stuff. We did 9 miles in 2 days, real light, but a lot of elevation change. A real light hike, real enjoyable scenery. It was nice and green. The snow was just now getting to where it was melting, where you can walk around. And the elk, man, I swear they know when the season is. You know, you're starting to get elk with a little bit of velvet, but not their horns aren't completely developed. The antlers aren't completely developed. Sorry for those people. Oh my God, he called them horns. Antlers. Okay, antlers. I know the difference. I'm just white trash and I call them what I want. And you start seeing them, and I'm sitting in a bright red hammock with a fire going, making me some MREs for my meal. And 4 elk just walk 50 yards away from me. You can check it out on my Instagram. I have a video of it. They just walking right next to me, just hanging out. They don't give a shit. But as soon as September rolls around, I'm not going to see a damn one.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever's in charge of my simulation, rendering my world, whoever's in charge of that forgot to put animals into it this year. They forgot. Yo, your target animal, yeah, you're not going to see any of those. But here's you a moose. Like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, Unit 39, there are moose recorded in the area that I hunt, but you never see them. You never see them. And that same trip I was talking about the elk, we look over the ridge and there's a big black dot, and we're like, oh, somebody's cow got out. Nope. Full-blown cow moose just sitting there, you know, full belly, getting ready to drop her calf, just up in the mountains, just chilling. We sat there, and it was me, my hunting buddy, and a friend that I work with, and we sat there and watched this moose for probably an hour, just kind of blown away that we're looking at a moose in this area at this time of day. There's something pretty. My usual hunting buddy, his name is Trey, and he gets super pissed when he hunts with me because we never see our target animal, but we always see something cool, and he's in for it for the food. He loves to fill his freezer and stuff. He texts me, he goes, I'm going hunting without you this weekend. I was like, why? He goes, I'm hungry. And he wants to kill a bear. He wants to kill a bear. So he's going without me. Pretty upset about it, but I'll get over it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We'll kiss and make up later.
You'd be funny though. It's like you go out, he goes out, but you tag out, and it's like, I saw another bear, but looks like you decided to go do it yourself.
Oh yeah, like when we split up. So where this started was we were mule deer hunting last year, and we didn't see a damn thing together. And we finally said, all right, you go over that ridge, I'll go over this ridge. But if we hear a shot, we'll go to the other one. Not 45 minutes into walking later, I hear kaboom, and you know, it's that schwack, that thud after you hear a rifle hit an animal. And I was like, this motherfucker. And I walk over, and it was a freezer filler, so the last little bit of the season, you know, it was a legal buck, but nothing to brag about. And he was like, I got him. He was ecstatic, and he was like, all right, from now on, whenever I'm trying to kill something, you just got to walk away from me. I was so pissed, man. But yeah, that's been our running joke between us. Is just let me step back a few hundred yards and you'll kill something.
Isn't that something? You know, what you could always do in the future. In the future, what you could do is just like let him get about 50 yards out ahead of you. You just kind of walk slowly behind him, and hopefully he'll see something. And it's like all of a sudden he hears you go off. And it's like, motherfucker, you got it.
Man, he's one of the best marksmen I've ever met in my life. This dude, he can drive nails at a couple hundred yards. He's a really good marksman. I've never seen him miss other than with a shotgun, but we all miss with a shotgun. And this man has killed more animals than I can count. This guy, I try to get him on the podcast. Like I try to get him, but unfortunately he had to go on a work trip down to Salt Lake. So fortunately he couldn't join us, but he is a monster in the woods, man, and super knowledgeable. He's the reloading guy. I have a reloading press and stuff in my room. We make some pretty amazing rounds for our hunting rifles and our just sharpshooting rifles that we play around with. And you can name a round and he'll just fire off the specs, like the velocity and everything like that. I think he's a little bit on the spectrum. You know how like some people on the spectrum are really into trains and shit like that. He's really into this. Yeah, but great guy. I wouldn't trade him for the world. Great hunting partner.
Do you guys serve together then, or is he older than you or something?
We serve together.
Okay.
Yeah, we serve together.
So now down in Texas, let's go down a few hundred miles. So in Texas, what was one of some of the first animals that you got to hunt growing up?
So growing up, it was whitetails. When I turned 8, my dad bought me a 243 breakover little hunting rifle, and we sat in a blind on my grandpa's property that was up in the air, like up in we called them a tower stand. I don't know if there's any kind of other vocabulary that you guys use, but it's basically just a box in the air, and it's we're probably 30 feet in the air, and we're looking over this big oat field that my grandfather planted every year. And your first animal was a doe, and I remember my dad just sitting in there freezing his ass off. My dad was more of a city boy than my mom. My dad got into hunting as he got older and got really good at it. But mainly when he had us is when he got into hunting. But before that, he kind of didn't do it that much. But my mom, also white trash, just loved to kill anything and everything because she grew up on a farm, which is where we were hunting. We were hunting on his farm. And I remember sitting in there, and my dad is bundled up in the same jacket that he's had for years. And he's just sitting there shivering, and I'm sitting there shivering. And this doe walks right out to our feeder pen. And in Texas, it's legal to bait your animals. And of course, as a kid, I didn't know that was unethical or whatever. So we're sitting in this stand. My dad's freezing. He doesn't even notice this deer. And I got my gun up, and he's like, he looks over at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And about that time, I squeeze off, and I smoke this doe at 65 yards. That was my first doe. He was super ecstatic, but he hated me for it because we had to sit in the 25-degree weather and clean this doe. And that really wasn't the all call, like that all-inspiring moment. Like, oh man, that wasn't the moment where I was like, wow, I really love hunting and stuff like that. What really got me into it was a week later, we made sausage out of it. That's what really got me into the hunting and stuff, is like that. And I was like, wow, this 243 bullet was a lot cheaper than this 60 pounds of beef. Just thinking about that kind of stuff, because all the arguments growing up with my parents and stuff was all about money and stuff like that. But I remember filling that freezer full of sausage, and I was like, this is a cool way to provide. This is a really neat, interesting way to, harvest an animal, process it and stuff like that. And I love the taste of venison. I think the taste of venison got me into hunting more than the actual hunting itself, the thrill of hunting an animal. It's since changed. I tried elk meat for the first time many years ago, and I was like, okay, this is what it's about. Screw them whitetail. This is it. But we as we grew up, we started taking more responsibility on the farm and realizing how much of a problem that wild boar were. And we were like, wow, this sucks. Like I remember at one year, my my grandfather lost $40,000 in 1 year, just the damages to wild boar. And that, I think it's up to like, it's almost $1 billion in damages in Texas, across farms in Texas. $1 billion in damages a year produced by pigs. And we bought four-wheelers, we bought spotlights, all legal in Texas, for those of you people freaking out that I just said spotlights. Oh, you frozen?
No, I'm still here. I hear you.
Okay, cool. All right, so we took our spotlights out, we plugged them in the four-wheeler, and we're out there just chasing pigs down, slaughtering these pigs, just absolutely decimating these pigs. And it was the most thrilling thing that I did as a kid. We didn't have money to go to amusement parks or stuff like that, but we had $20 to put in the gas, and then we chasing pigs across cut wheat fields. And just that later evolved where I was like 11 or 12. My older brother got dogs, and we met a lot of people in the community that also hunted pigs with dogs, and we would drop these pigs off drop these dogs off in a wooded area, and they would go find the pigs and bay them up, and we'd run in there with knives and a pit bull that we called the catch dog, and he would grab the dog by the ear, or the hog by the ear, I'm sorry. And we'd run in there and tackle it, tie it up, or stab it, or whatever. And that was always just the best memories with my brothers and stuff like that. When I went back home a few times ago, when I went back down to Texas, I was in, the local watering hole with a whole bunch of the locals. And there was one of there that we hunted with as a kid. And I was like, "Hey man, how are you doing?" He was like, "Boy, you gotten big. Last time I saw you, your twin brother was holding you down with a Bowie knife." And I was like, "Oh my God." And we were wild, man. We were wild kids. Like, we were the definition of feral kids. Like, as close as you can get to being, like Tarzan, that's what we were, always running around in the woods. I never really played sports. I moved all my attention and efforts toward killing shit. That was it. Running, getting in the John boat and setting up lines on the river, man. It was, looking back at it now, I was like, wow, I didn't really appreciate that as much as I did, as much meat as we brought home, and as much just diversity and in ecology that we had down south. But it really makes me appreciate it more now that I live in Idaho, where there ain't shit. There's a lot of rules and regulations over what you can hunt and fish and stuff like that. You can't just set up a trot line along the river. You're going to end up catching a sturgeon and getting the fine that's worth more than my house. So it's I really miss that kind of freedom. I really miss that kind of hanging out with my brothers, those memories and stuff like that. Those were definitely some good times. I really wish you can realize they were the good old days while you were in them, I guess.
It's one of those things too. It's like I had a realization too. It's like, for me right now, like I've never really, I've traveled around the country, but it's like I always seem to come back to home, like the Midwest, whether it be Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And I feel like I'm living my good old days right now, because I'm traveling around. I'm getting to meet and greet a whole bunch of people and such. And I'm looking forward to this upcoming hunting season. So it's like, I feel like I'm actually right where I want to be now. It's like I want to capture more of those experiences like you did. And I'm grateful that we don't have the hog problems that the South has. But I'm appreciative now that we're starting to see like the dog culture come back, where we're starting to see a lot more people run dogs down all throughout the country down south, from Arizona all the way out to Florida. Like, people really actually paying attention to what dogs can do, and really bring different species back to life. So there's a lot of appreciation for that. And we also we have some of the best turkey season around, best whitetail around too as well. Elk is hit or miss, what was recently with Wyoming with their drought issues and such. I mean, they cut, was it 10,000 tags from their lottery?
I didn't see that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I know they cut Roosevelt tags from California all this year.
Wouldn't surprise me. I didn't know about, but then again, it's like it's California and Oregon. All I don't know if you've heard about this, but you have IP13. It was on the docket last year, but they were, due to the massive outcry, they were managed to take it off the bill. off the docket. Now it's back on again, but the next election isn't for 2 more years. But what it is, it goes after hunting, fishing, self survival, even animal husbandry too as well. So if you were big into AI, like artificial insemination, they're going to try to get rid of all that stuff. But they made the announcement now, and they're hopefully that nobody's going to pay attention to that here in 2 years. Well, with everything that's going on, it's difficult, but the ones like us, like the ones that are actually really paying attention to it, we're going to be on top of it. But yeah, it's because of the drought and what's going on with the river systems and such, like because of lack of water and lack of watershed and snowfall and such, they're just kind of getting a jump on it. So this way, then they're not going to decimate their population, because we could see a massive drought this year and see a lot of die off because of the lack of water and the lack of foliage for them to eat, especially with speed goats and such as well. So I can appreciate the forward thinking on that. So this way, then we can hopefully, well, you in your 30s or 40s and me in my 60s have an opportunity to get back out there and hunt something,
Man, that's something that's scary to think about is, they're trying to get rid of this artificial insemination, but they don't have a problem giving young kids castration drugs because they want to decide they want to be a girl that day.
Yeah, that's right. It's Lupuron.
Yeah.
It was like they got a massive lawsuit back in like 2003 for like over 800 million. Nobody remembers that, but yeah, it's basically legal castration. But they don't want to tell your kids that, and it's very disgusting what's going on because there's no real long-term studies from it. Once you watch What Is a Woman, that documentary by Matt Walsh, it really kind of puts you in perspective. It's like, we really don't know the long-term effects about some of these things that we're doing to these children. And Dr. Deborah So, she was on Dr. Jordan Peterson, or no, she was on there as well on her podcast, but also on Joe Rogan. But she was talking about that there's an uptick in females, the young kids between 11 to 16, and all of a sudden they get a whole bunch of popularity. Now she feels that it's going to have a dramatic, devastating effect, because now all these kids are no longer get the attention that they thought they were. Now they're just blending into the pack, but they've done all this body manipulation or mutilation that they don't know what to do afterwards. It's her podcast was called Wrong Speak. And she named it that because of 1984, because she got out of academia because of what they're trying to push. It's like, if you were trying to do a study, you already had to have your narrative and your goal already picked out before you began your study. So it's like, it's really kind of far-fetched. And then you learn about
backwards, isn't it?
Yeah. Then you learn about John Money, and then you also Alfred Kinney. Those two absolutely horrible human beings. They even made a movie after him. Liam Neeson started and played him, and he was the one that actually molested young infants all the way down to 5 months old. And it's like page 35 in his book where it talks about what the what's what I'm looking for, the spectrum of orgasms and all that fun stuff. It's very disturbing. And the book has been debunked, but what he did is he used pedophiles and stuff like that for prisons and such, and that's where he bases his study off of. And it's like, oh man, that's just disgusting.
Hey man, this is a hunting podcast, so we're gonna see if we can implement a pedophile hunting season in the United States. We'll see if we can get that legislation passed.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
No bag limit, nothing like that. You can just dump them in a ditch. That'd be great.
That would be something that would definitely change the perspective that's going on right now, and it would definitely clean up the streets and such like that. There was the
problem was we wouldn't have a Congress anymore if we did that. It'd be a bit of an issue.
I've talked about that too, like with John Walsh, or what's his name, the guy that did To Catch a Predator. The reason why that show is no longer on because they caught a DA and stuff like that. He killed, and he unalived himself, unfortunately, but he got caught, and that's how it goes. And now there's been, I've been seeing on social media that there's been a few other people that are catching people, but basically they're not going after them. They're just allowing the cops to take care of the rest. They're just like, hey, we're doing this, and you're not, type scenario. But you're right, though. We're going to run into a senator or a senator's aide. That's going to get trouble.
Like I've seen those people on TikTok where they're just like, hey man, what are you doing here? And they're like, oh, you're here to meet a 13-year-old girl. And then they just, the cops are right behind them. We're like, just Hell yeah, man. Just
Mm-hmm.
keep doing that shit, man. I wish I could. I hope there's like places they can get donations and stuff like that to keep doing what they're doing. That's like that's amazing.
Yeah,
That,
like do like a Patreon forum or something just to kind of
yeah.
keep things going for that type of attitude. But anyway.
Hey everyone, Jake with HHA. Super excited to introduce the Tetra and Tetra Max Rise. The Tetra Max and the Tetra Rise is our new 2-pin vertical bow sight that we're coming out with here for this year. So you'll notice a couple things on it. It's very similar to our single pin platform that we've had here over the last 25 years, and really similar to the other sights in the Tetra line. So what we basically did was we took our single pin technology and we merged that with some multi-pin technology. So the way we built our Tetra and Tetra Max Rise sights was we basically dropped the second pin in that vertical pin coming up from the bottom, and then we added a second indicator on the yardage wheel. So both of those are fixed. One really nice thing with this setup is you sight in at 20 and 60 with the top pin, and you don't have to worry about the second pin at all. That second pin and second indicator will automatically be on. So really nice feature there. The Tetra Rise and Tetra Max Rise are gonna come in 8 different frame options. So 4 in the Tetra Max Rise, 4 in the Tetra Rise. Both are gonna come in the fixed Hunter Edition frames. So the Tetra Hunter Edition frame, the Tetra Max Hunter Edition frame, as well as the Hoyt Picatinny mounts in both the Tetra Max and the Tetra Rise, as well as the long dovetail and then the short dovetail bar option that I have on the Matthews bridge lock system. So all the dovetail options within the Tetra and Tetra Max Rise are going to be compatible with Matthews bridge lock system. So within both of these product lines, you're going to get a lot of different options as far as which sight you want to go with. So you're going to get your choice of a yellow or red second pin. Red is going to be the standard second pin color, but you can choose to go with the yellow option as well. And then both will be available in either a 10 or a 19 thousandths pin. All scope housing sizes are 1 inch and 5/8, and we do have the same front end that we've had on the Tetra line since 2020 with the macro gain adjustments as well as your micro adjustments as well for windage. New on the Tetra Rise this year, you're going to notice that there is a new needle carrier. So this needle carrier obviously has the 2 indicators, but you will see that it is a red anodized needle carrier to really call out where your needles are at. On the Tetra and Tetra Max Rise, we'll be able to achieve longer distances. So we have built the longest tape sets that we've ever offered in our company's history. So guys are going to be able to get out to 120, 130, 140, 150, and in some situations even farther depending on your arrow setup. So just making sure that we're getting arrow clearance, but really nice feature to be able to just step out in the backyard or head out to the 3D course to shoot out to some of those longer distances. On the hunting side of things, this is one of the nicest hunting sights that we have ever built. It does have reasonable pin gap spacing with a 1/4 inch spacing. That way, you know, if that deer runs out from 20 to 35, your second pin's on. So the most commonly asked question that I've had so far as we went through this whole setup process is, where does that second pin sit? Well, that second pin is going to vary depending on the different arrow setups that you do shoot. Closest answer I could give you is the most common is going to be somewhere between 32 and 40 yards, depending on how fast your bow is. So you'll likely be somewhere between that 32 to 40 yards with that second pin if the first one's at 20. So along with all other HHA products, the Tetra Rise and the Tetra Max Rise carry a 100% lifetime warranty. All products are 100% made in the USA. For more information, you can visit our website at hhasports.com.
Yeah, getting back into our actual hunting aspect of it all here, man. So when you were hunting whitetails, like, you know, all the exotic animals that are in Texas, I take they're all on big fence, big ranch operations.
Well, that used to be the case. It used to be the case before I was born. There, we've seen a real rise in fallow deer and axis deer in particular over in the hill country of Texas, axis deer especially are everywhere. They're becoming as common as whitetails.
Really?
And yeah, they're in a lot of places like your Llano. I don't know if you're familiar with the area of Texas, but I was talking to an older gentleman in Llano who was talking about he used to see maybe 1 or 2 axis deer a year. Now it's up into the hundreds where he's seeing just
Really?
scattered across that kind of hill country and stuff, which is really weird because they come from like India region, which is not the same ecosystem as where they're at, but they're doing really well and thriving in that area. They've also seen a big jump in javelinas, which is really interesting. Javelina is one of the only native pork kind of thing in the United States.
I'm familiar with them. That's
Yeah.
on my bucket list because I know it's popular in New Mexico and in Arizona.
Yep. And also in Texas, javelinas they're way less invasive than the wild boar, but boy, do they stink. They stink. There's a reason why they call them skunk pigs. Man, they are foul. I actually shot one with a slingshot one time.
Okay.
So we were hunting mule deer in West Texas. It was me, my grandfather, and my twin brother. And me and my twin brother walked down this hill, and it was a pretty hot day in the middle of December, and we're looking down this very steep valley covered in rocks and thorn bushes and stuff like that. And I have a slingshot, and I put little pebbles in it, and I throw them over into the gorge to see if I can spook anything up, just so we can get, kind of a head count or see if we can spook a deer up to get a shot on. And I'm shooting these slingshots, and I hear rustling next to us, and there's a group of javelinas running by me and my brother, and I was like, oh, go time. And I pick up a little rock, and I smoked this javelina. Granted, it wasn't the javelina I was aiming at, but I smoked him at about 40 yards with a fucking slingshot, and it just like you can hear and they just scatter. It was really neat and interesting. I haven't had too much experience hunting them myself. A lot of spotting them more than anything, but they never were my target species when I was out hunting. My brother and my grandfather were really big into the mule deer, but for me, it was all about the Barbary sheep. Climbing up the mountains, shooting these big all dead. You guys go to my Instagram later. I'm sure it'll be in one of these links. You can see a lot of pictures of me with a Barbary sheep. I actually have one here hanging on my wall. This was this December before me and my wife had our wedding reception. We went out to West Texas and went and hunted some Barbary sheep. Isn't that how you want to spend your weekend? Every woman wants to spend her weekend up in the high desert of West Texas, just filthy, chasing dirty ass goats up the mountains. So
the women like that are a rare find, and they get bigger rocks, they get better guns.
Oh, facts.
Yes, facts.
I try to take care of mine, but she's very high maintenance. I don't know what the deal is. Barbary sheep for me was kind of I like the challenge. I've always liked the mountains. I guess being from Central Texas, I don't see much topography and stuff. So when we started going out to West Texas, hunting these mule deer and Barbary sheep, seeing the mountains, seeing something that, hey, that thing runs up those mountains all day. If I can outdo that animal and take him home in a cooler, I'm the baddest motherfucker around here. And that's how I think it really originally started, because we were going up this mountain that we called Aldad Mountain. Aldad is another word for Barbary sheep. And it's where we saw them all the time, but it's just sheer rock faces, just these huge cliffs. And one side is kind of sloped, but not too sloped. And it was about 2 hours before sundown and about 2 hours before last light. And my grandpa, we saw some on the other side of the hill, and we drove around it, and we couldn't really see them anymore. And I was like, I'm gonna climb up that mountain and see if I can kill me a Barbary. And my grandpa was, of course, he thought he'd teach me a lesson. All right, go for it, get after it. And I went up there, and I met him at the right place, just right place, right timing. I picked out the biggest one in the group, sat behind a yucca plant, and I smoked him. 120 yards, smoked him, laid him down right in his tracks. And
nice.
Yeah, with a 7 mag. And it was the biggest one I've ever killed, was actually the first one I've ever killed. He was 33 inches from inside of his head all the way down to his horn tip. He was 33
Wow,
inches.
that's huge.
Yeah, he was a monster. This one I have on my wall is 30. So this 30 from inside to outside. And it was amazing. Just like watching this animal go down. I don't get buck fever that often, but the hardest I've ever got buck fever was shooting that Barbary sheep. I was trembling. I looked like an epileptic, man. I was so, my grandfather said he could hear me screaming from down the hill. Like, and anyways, I processed him and I started carrying him back down. And my grandpa, I'm carrying 2 front shoulders. Well, 1 front shoulder and 1 back shoulder. The first front shoulder was, it was soup. And I'm carrying the head just to prove that I got a big one, and I'm on this metal frame backpack, just stumbling down this hill, dying of exhaustion. And I bring it down and I got this Barbary sheep head just hanging over my shoulders. And I'm 14 at the time. I'm just a young buck. So it weighed so much more than, like, I can probably carry that whole sheep out now. But back then that was a lot of weight. And my grandpa was like, "We're not eating that." I was like, "Why? We killed it. We're eating it." He was, "No, dude, that's a Barbary sheep. They're a pest out here." And he was like, "You can take a chunk home with you to the hotel and we'll see if you want to eat it after you cook it. You can cook it however you want." And I cooked it like how my dad cooked steak. When I tell you I would rather cut the bottom of my hiking boots out and eat it, it was foul. It was the most disgusting, gamiest piece of leather. Like, I cooked it medium rare, like just a real nice pink center. I did really well. And it wasn't it. It tasted like the goat smells, and it was awful. It was awful. From then on out, because we went every year. Every December we went back from the time I was 14 to last year, we went every year. And I'd never eaten the meat. I'd never eaten the meat. We always threw it by the side of the road where they patrol for coyotes out there. There's just like, the only thing that's going to eat them is coyotes and buzzards. And I was like, all right, get after it. But it was still a really cool trophy hunt, but almost morally questioning, like, why I'm hunting these animals if I'm not taking it home, right? I'm only keeping the head. It's everything that I fight against down here, I just did on an invasive species, which, how invasive is the species if he's been there for 300 years? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how invasive, like, it's almost like the Persian ibex in New Mexico. Is it really invasive if they've been there and they've been in the U.S. longer than my family has?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but it's still an amazing experience climbing up these mountains, conquering these mountains, and taking this animal. I just wish they were more edible to my liking. The mule deer, though, I've taken 2 mule deer off that property, and it's been every time it's mule deer. Doesn't surprise me. Tastes a little sagey, tastes a little gamey. Still mule deer. It's delicious.
Yeah.
I've started incorporating. I don't know if you're really big into like the food processing part of things. I'm sure you are.
Oh yeah, I have several videos of me breaking down, not breaking down a deer, but actually breaking down a piece of meat and then getting it prepped ready to brine and then to smoke it.
I've really gotten into more of the sausage part of anything, like mixing it with boar.
Okay.
Like, especially venison. Not so much my elk. None of my elk gets turned into sausage. If that all goes directly into the tummy. But the venison and wild boar will get mixed into like a sausage together, and we'll put a little bit of just regular pin race hog in with the boar, just to get a little less of a gamey taste and stuff like that. And I've always found that's a lot better because my wife hates venison. I never tell her when we're eating venison. All of our breakfast sausage is venison. All of everything that we eat that's, not in a store-bought package is some sort of venison. It's just normally mixed with something a little bit. I won't tell her what it is, and she doesn't know the difference. But as soon as I bring out an elk steak, she's like, oh no, an elk steak, I don't really want it and stuff like that. But if I hide it from her, she'll never know the difference. I don't know. She's just a picky eater, man.
It must have some type of an incarnation of something that why she has this distaste for the meat, because it's like it's absolutely delicious, especially when it's done right.
I think she grew up on it. That's one of her primary sources of food as she was growing up. So she just doesn't like the taste. She didn't. I think it's because her dad is a hunting guide. What was a
okay.
hunting guide. So that's all they ate was mule deer growing up. Mule deer and bear. It's very interesting seeing the way like she like I'll make a flank steak and gravy kind of thing, just really Southern style it up, season it really well, and just cook it really well, and she'll eat it like it's nobody's business. But as soon as I tell her it was XYZ, she's like, oh. And I think it's because her dad shot animals and then made her butcher them as a kid, so it's completely de-romanticized the whole process. But I'm slowly warming her back up to it. Her favorite meal that I cook now is the turkey. I take the turkey breast that we shot right up the mountain, 45 minutes away from us, and I'll season them like fried chicken, and I'll just fry them like chicken. That's one of her favorite meals, is the fried turkey. So I'm starting to get her warmed up to it. But so we get per spring season, you get two turkeys. We tagged out and emptied our freezers within the turkey season.
Oh, wow.
We shot, processed, and ate the turkeys before turkey season was over.
That's epic.
Yeah. And man, I couldn't, I wonder what a full 30-pound turkey is right now. I wonder what a full turkey is, like a Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's going for right now.
I have not looked yet, but that is something I'm kind of curious about it, because I want to smoke one. I've been on this kick about smoking different meats and stuff like that. But I think it's like kind of the same thing with you and sausage. It's just something that you're really good at, and you get a lot of praise for it. But you want to try something new with it because it's such a versatile method that everybody likes it.
Yeah, everyone likes sausage. And not only is it like sausage, like you can get a breakfast sausage recipe, you can get a dinner sausage recipe, you can get a hot dog recipe, and you can get a summer sausage recipe. You can get summer sausage recipes without cheese, without jalapenos, and you can just really, really diversify. And hand to hand with sausage is jerky. You can get one of those little like basically a meat caulk gun.
Yes,
and
I have
squeeze out. Yes, you squeeze out your little jerky links, and I've always found it, it's a long process, especially when you kill a larger animal, stuff like that. When you're processing 300 pounds of sausage in 2 or 3 days, it's exhausting. The whole smokehouse is rolling 24/7. It's just, ugh. But it's something about that 2 days of work will feed, if need be, will feed me for a year.
Yes.
You just have so much meat, so much quantity of meat. And it's not the best, it's not, I don't have freaking Frank's hot dogs, but it's something that I killed, I processed, I seasoned, and I made. And it's another step of that conquering that I was talking about, conquering this mountain, conquering this animal. I'm conquering society, because guess what? I didn't go to the grocery store for any of this shit except the casings. I know there's going to be people out here just like, oh, you got the casings and all that. Yeah, shut the fuck up. All right. Like, let me be proud of myself, haters. And just, you conquer. It's something about being a little more self-sufficient each day. It's being a little more successful each day. And it's really fulfilling, shooting and killing and processing an animal for me.
Yeah, I think that's where I've leaned more towards myself. I never was much of a big horn hunter. My dad was never a horn hunter. You just liked filling the freezer with meat and such. And when my brother and I got older and stuff like that, we got to the point where we ate venison so frequently that we didn't want to eat beef. We didn't want to eat it, because it's like him and his friends were such they were always party hunting for the shotgun season or muzzleloader, depending on how his balance his PTO time and such. And that's what we eat a lot of. And they'd always party hunt. So it always won't be surprised to have 40 to 80 pounds of meat in a season if the deer were really sitting pretty good. Because in Iowa, it's like we do have a really good population of whitetail, but it's like you have to really look at the state to understand where majority of the meat of or the deer are for whitetail. You're looking pretty much, if you could follow I-35 east, and anything west of that, like getting all the way up to Sioux Falls, all in that area, it's pretty much brown us down. But we had a couple of horrible seasons for cold winters and such, and just didn't give them anywhere to find coverage. So it's still been kind of a slow recovery process, because you have to incorporate predation and all the car accidents and stuff, and it's been difficult. Now I've seen all kinds of dead deer, but the worst part is when you come across a fawn. It's a little it gets you, because it's like you don't mind too much of a mature doe, but it's like a young one, like a young fawn. It's like you want to at least see them to experience the whole thing going on. Plus, that we all have a sentimental connection to babies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's human nature. The sentimental connection to babies, for sure. And you're talking about 60 to 80 pounds of meat, and it's kind of wild to me, because growing up in Texas, one good successful hog hunt, like with, you got 2 or 3 people out there with their dogs, or you 2 or 3 people on four wheels and stuff, can render 7 or 8 pigs a night. If a really successful night, you got 600 pounds of meat. You're talking about 200-300 pound plus wild boar. And that's one of the things that, like, I think that a lot of people in the South will, if shit hits the fan, like, those are the people that don't know me or haven't watched the podcast that we did with Jim Bob. This is what I'm about. I'm about the prepping sort of thing. And the people down in South will absolutely thrive off of pigs alone. They're, you can't make the motherfuckers go extinct. We've tried. So these animals are just they're producing so much meat, just like hanging around just being them. I think that's why a lot of people in the South, like, survival will be a lot easier down there, is because one shot, there's 4 or 5 families are eating that day.
Oh yeah, 100%. We could see the same thing happen here too. If a pig farm or something like that has a possibility of getting threatened or getting shut down, or it can't handle it, like just let it all out and loose, and we would have a whole headache up here too as well. So we could really change the dynamic of the food supply really quickly and such, if we ever decide to do something like that. It's just right now, it's like we haven't seen a need to change it yet, but we haven't seen a major food shortage since the Great Depression up here. So we don't know what poverty feels like, or what it feels like to be meal to meal.
Well, fasten your seatbelts, bud. Here comes 2023. It's like,
yeah, I know. I was homeless for a period of time, so it's like there's some times where I didn't know where I get my meal from, because back in 2008, when that housing market crashed, I was in Phoenix, and so we got hit with the brunt of it. I mean, I couldn't even get a damn job at working at McDonald's, so it's like I had 2 options here in July: either be homeless on the streets or go up north. So I just decided to pack up at 2:00 in the morning and start marching my way out of town, and managed to get picked up and went up from there. So it's like it's one of those things where I understand the struggles when it comes down to it. Like, where I'm at today was not what I was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and fortunately for me, I haven't had that experience. Like, I've never lived in a time where I don't know what I'm going to eat. And like, I've met a lot of people in my career that have joined the military just for that reason. Man, I was tired of being homeless. I joined the military to get away from that. Guaranteed housing, free food sounds good to me. And it's like, it really puts you, it knocks you, it humbles you for sure. Because compared to them, I'm a spoiled brat, man. I'm a spoiled brat. And it really amazes me, humans' abilities to survive.
Yeah, it is.
Like, just to thrive and stuff like that. And it really worries me for the future as well, is just like, what's coming next? What's going to happen? Are we going to be okay? Is the American people going to be okay? Are we going to be able to pull out of this? And it's really scary. But the more that I see the way things are going, I understand why my great grandmother gave me an orange for Christmas every year. That's because in the 30s, when she was a kid, that was the best gift someone can give you, was an orange or an apple, man. And it's just like, wow, holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
What's gonna, like, am I gonna buy my niece that I have coming in a few months? Am I gonna buy her an orange for Christmas one year? Or like, what's gonna happen? It's really, really terrifying, especially with as little rain they got going that's happening all over the country, where everyone's talking about we're in severe drought and stuff like that, is, and the food shortage, supply chain shortage, COVID, all these things just firing off like rockets that are just, it makes you realize how fragile society really is, I guess. And that's, I think people like us that have a lot of experience hunting and stuff, we soon could be providers for a community. But at the same time, being a provider for the community is great, but is there any coming back after being a provider for the community? Because if you're shooting deer off the mountain and out of the path, if brown is down, kind of that kind of theory, is there any recovery from that? As much as our population has grown since the last Great Depression, where they were shooting deer to eat and stuff like that, is there any coming back? Is our deer population going to suffer? Is our animal population going to suffer entirely because of a national food shortage or the Great Depression? Is there going to be, a lot of poaching happening? Are people just going to throw the rules right out the window? Like what could we look forward to? Like, I wish I had the answers to those questions. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, getting to that perspective there, most of the people that went through that shit are all dead, and so we don't have that leadership anymore. And that's why I think why the VA treats our veterans so poorly is because if a well managed and healthy vet population, they probably overthrow the government because they know what they're capable of. That's I think that's what it comes down to. But what's what we're missing? We don't have that expertise anymore. Like I did a podcast, I just released one today with David Garrett. So I told him, it's like, if shit goes down, there's military men around me that I know, is that I will make sure I will be the ammo bitch for him, because I want to make sure that rounds will go down range and will hit their target, especially when it comes down to today's society. I'm a pretty good shot, but there's people out there that are far better than I am, and so that's where I'd be at.
Man, I'm in the Air Force. All the military people I know can't shoot broadside of a barn.
Yeah, that's how it usually goes. But I see if it all depends on how if either this great reset or great awakening will happen. If we have this great awakening, we'll probably see a redesigning of the infrastructure here. We'd probably revert back to the 50s, where we take care of our major communities instead of shipping everything out to major supplies. Now, when you have a Chicago or New York or Panama or an LA, those will become war zones, and then it will be basically a massive prison type scenario where everybody is going to be struggling to get out. Luckily for us, we live in a smaller area that we do, like you up in Idaho, here in Wisconsin. Our biggest community is in Milwaukee, and it's like, well, they can eat themselves type scenario, and it's
Boise is 40 minutes away. And Boise, unlike most major cities, is full of fucking rednecks. I think I think for sure those bigger cities and stuff are going to suffer a lot more than rural communities, because rural communities are, as much they get shit on by those bigger cities, those rural communities always take care of each other.
Yeah, they do it.
Communities are.
I was going to say, I can comment on that because my dad lives in a small community. He's 69 years old. And his community and everybody around there, everybody takes care of everybody. Like he if somebody needs to help watch his house, there's somebody to do. There's somebody in the area that needs their dogs taken care of. Somebody needs their horses taken care of, the cow taken care of. Like they've all known each other since the 50s and 60s. My dad was born in 53, and it's like, he didn't know he was blind until he was in school. They didn't have running water until the 60s and stuff like that. I mean, their outhouse when he was growing up was 20 feet outside. So it was like, this is Iowa, so it's fucking cold outside. So you're really planning your trips outside very carefully.
Yeah. Do you really have to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, exactly. Can I wait until the sun's up a little bit and I can see where I'm walking? Type scenario. So it's like some of the people that were really impoverished are still around, but that's where we need to really take advantage of their knowledge. I've noticed in this area here that I've seen an uptick in canning, which is a good thing to have, good thing to see, because there's people out there that know that shit is going to happen. And food hoarding is not a bad thing. It's just like you gotta understand from if you were poor ever once, it's like, you have to figure out how to survive, and food is the first thing you need to secure and go from there. Everything else is downhill.
I actually canned an elk roast this year. This year I canned an elk roast this was my first experience canning. I didn't grow up canning and nothing like that. My grandma used to do it, but I always stole shit from her. And, and so in exchange for mowing the grass, I got, jellies and stuff like that, but never really canned any. And I canned an elk roast, and I cracked one open the other day. It was like, all right, it's been in here for a couple months. Let's see what's happening. And cracked it open, warmed it up, and put it over some mashed potatoes, and I'll be all right with that. I'll be all right. All right. Granted, it is only about 20 pounds of meat that's canned, but that's 20 pounds a lot of people don't have, Mm-hmm. And that's another problem that I have with Idaho is the limited foraging, the very limited foraging, very limited natural berries and fruits and stuff like that. We're down in Texas, there's peach trees and blueberries and dewberries, or as y'all call them, blackberries. I think blackberries everywhere. Like, you've got all these sorts of. It may be just because I grew up down there. I know all the edibles, and I don't necessarily know all the edibles up here. But that you can go outside and pick you a meal from the ground in Texas. Up here in the high desert, good luck. Unless you can eat a sagebrush, good luck.
Mm-hmm. When I was hitchhiking, when I was going through Oregon, so going after blackberries and raspberries, you could find them rather readily available in some cases, but you gotta pick and spot the foliage and kind of understand what it looks like and how it's going to be formed and the terrain and such. And you get used to seeing that when you're hungry. And it wasn't uncommon for me. There was a few times where that was my meal, was all berries.
Man.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can be, how resourceful it is. It's like, and when you go through such a traumatic experience like that, you tend not to look at material things, but you look at what is more valuable to me. Like for me, it's a bow. For me, it's a gun, and it's like and then a tent, and I can rebuild. Like I've been poor, I've been on the streets, so it's like I can rebuild as long as I have means to get me their fishing pole, or even I don't even need a fishing pole. I'll just give myself a nice strong stick, put some line on it, let's go.
There you go. And that's one of the things that I have romanticized recently is doing the Alone show. Have you seen that show?
Yeah, I've seen that show.
Oh my goodness, I want to do that show so bad, but I know as soon as I'm away from my kitchen, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna get hangry as hell, and I'm gonna starve to death, and I'm gonna tap out.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is when I watched the first episode and the guy that won it was on Rogan, he had no idea he won until somebody showed up at his doorstep.
Really?
Yeah, that's how you win. At least maybe his show.
Yeah.
I think it's the same one, maybe not, but it's
no,
amazing.
You're talking about like they do a health and wellness check, and he's just talking to the camera and stuff like that, and their significant other like comes up behind them, and they're just like, "Hey, you won," and they just break down. Oh my goodness. That one hunting guide out of Alaska won one of the seasons, and he made that rock house, and he killed a muskox with a knife.
Wow. What a savage.
Homeboy killed a muskox with a knife. I'm surprised they didn't have to carry his ass out with a forklift to carry the weight of his balls out of that freaking wilderness. Good Lord. Like, I've been pretty close to some big game animals that, wild big game animals, but nothing like hand-to-hand combat with them. And this dude's out here just butchering a muskox with a fucking knife.
Man,
it's amazing. It's amazing what starvation will do to you, I guess. That's just, I couldn't imagine.
My thought is, though, it's like if you're going on these shows, they must have all the permits or tags or whatever is necessary for that.
I'm Jake with HHA Sports, And today we're going to talk a little bit about our Dovetail Sights and how they're going to fit on the new Matthews V3X. So as you'll see, I have a Tetra Max Tournament Edition sight on this 33-inch V3X. All of our Dovetail sights, the Tetra and the Tetra Max, will fit on the V3X. Also, in the next couple of weeks, you'll see us come out with a shorter Dovetail version. It'll just be our short bar version, which will also fit on the V3X on both the 29 and 33-inch model. One question that we've gotten pretty frequently lately is the windage adjustments on your Tetra and Tetra Max bow sights on the new Matthews bow. And this year we came out with the infinite adjust plate, which you'll see on the front end of your sight. So when you put this infinite adjust plate on, you'll want to either flip it to the inside or the outside. And for the inline mounting sight options, such as the V3X, you're going to want to make sure that the infinite adjust plate is to the outside of your infinite adjust channel. This will allow for optimal windage adjustments. So you'll also be able to find the infinite adjust bracket on our website if you're already shooting a Tetra or Tetra Max Tournament Edition sight. Another way that you can get your HHA to fit V3X is by buying our conversion kit, which you can find on our website at HHAsports.com. We'll be selling those at retail around $60. So basically the only thing you'll have to do is you'll have to take apart your sight at the third access point, and you can convert any Tetra or Tetra Max sight. So if you have a fixed frame, you can get that into a Dovetail. So like mentioned before, any Dovetail sight will fit a Tetra or a Tetra Max, as well as our short bar version. For more information, you can visit our website at www.hhasports.com.
I'm just to hunt and survive off the land, because if they're not, it's almost be a version of poaching.
Yeah, see, when you read it, they put up subtitles like all the game here was harvested legally according to whatever state or region they're in, and it's like, okay, so they paid for muskox tags, or like how that's like, does everyone get a muskox tag? Or that one guy that killed a moose with a just bow a string and bow, mm-hmm. Killed a moose, like he had to have an Alaskan moose tag, and those aren't cheap, you know.
No, they're not.
And according to the moose he shot, it wasn't a legal moose anyway. So,
oh wow! So it was actually, was it a bull or was it a cow?
It was a bull. It was a bull moose. But Alaska has very strict moose harvesting regulations and stuff. And you know, you're talking they have to be I think it's 62 inches.
Oh, I thought 62 inches. Okay, I thought it was 50, but it could be depending on the region, because Alaska's fucking huge.
Yeah, Alaska is fucking huge, and I could be wrong. I'm not an Alaska native, but I was under the impression that it was 62 inches, and this moose wasn't more than 40. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's on a good day, he was 40. You know, that was giving him a few inches. So I was like, is that really legal, or like they just pay the fine and skip over it? Like, what's going on with that? Mm-hmm. But that dude ate a moose. Like an entire moose the time he was there. And
but that's what allowed him to win, because he got that moose early on, but he also secured fire, shelter, and water.
Mm-hmm. Fire, shelter, water, and food. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think I could win it. I think I could win it I don't know. I'd have to be a little bit more poor than I am now. You know, just a little bit more motivation to, like, oh, it's either this or be homeless when you get back home. Like, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, you're still in the military, so you won't be able to do something like that until you rotate out. So are you going to be a lifer, or are you going to be just going to do your contract and be done?
Oh, no, I'm doing my contract and I'm done, man. I'm done. This life is for a lot of people, but it's not for me. I like to be able to do what I want when I want to do it. I don't want to have to, you know, every time I take a shit, I got to call somebody and be like, "Hey, I'm taking a shit." You know, I want to be pretty independent and stuff. I've been here for 4 years, which, you know, I'm sure some people listening to this will be like, "Oh, 4 years, what a pussy," you know, like, you know, this just ain't for me. And I got 2 more years left on my contract, and I'm gone. I don't know what I'm gonna do after it. It's really stressing me out lately, but I'll figure it out.
last thing is there's plenty of people out there that can help a guy focus on what they're going to be doing on. And just and on top of this too, since you get 2 more years, I recommend reading the 12 Rules of Life, Think and Grow Rich, by Napoleon Hill, because Napoleon Hill, that book I'm actually listening to it and reading it right now through my work, and it really allows you to figure, like, you could set goals, you can figure out everything you go there. Like in chapter 7, there is a 30-question checklist of sabotage, and it kind of lets you go through and like read through them and answer them truthfully, because this is your life. And the truer the answer you can get, the more it will dictate what you can do in the future. Because now it's like, well, I recognize that procrastination is one of my issues, or not thinking before I speak, or stuff like that, where you could really kind of figure out, what am I doing wrong, and like, how can I improve myself and get myself ready. And plus, it's like, when you're free now, it's like it's another opportunity to start fresh, start anew. So it's like you have everything at your fingertips. Now it's just figuring out what makes sense for you and what do you want to do. And that's like where I'm at right now. It's like it's taken me a long time to get to the work-life balance that I've been searching for. Because I do also the podcast. I do have my affiliate links and stuff like that people buy. So that helps establish a little bit of residual income that kind of pays for my hobbies and stuff. I also have BioLife, where I donate plasma, and that's $100 a week right there. So if you live in a college town that has that, that's great supplemental income from there right there. And they're recession proof. They're pandemic proof. They never shut down during the pandemic. So it's like they're still going strong to this day. Any of those donation centers. Then you can work on figuring out, like, if you want to become a guide. But then again, it's like, from what I've heard, people that turn a passion into a business, a job, they tend to get burnt out and they don't really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's the thing, though, those donation groups and stuff like that, donating plasma and stuff like that, at College Town is 45 minutes away. Shit, it's $100 in gas just for me to get there.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah. And then on top of it too, like you said, you were thinking about buying some land, like putting essentially a trailer park on it. So what have you learned about this process?
Just that you got to have money to make money, and people without money trying to make money is seen very frowned upon according to the banks. That's pretty much what it is. Like, it's so much, as a young guy just going into something, just being like, hey, I want to start a business. You get looked down upon a lot, and people don't really take you seriously. And you're like, damn, like, you really got to push some buttons to get to where you want to be. And I'm just starting this process and stuff like that. And we're negotiating land prices right now and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's with a friend. The land is from a friend. So it's like, he doesn't want to put it on the market because he doesn't want some Californian to move there, but he also doesn't want to sell it to me because I'm going to build an RV park on it. So it's a bit of a back and forth here, but I think it'll all work out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, great. Because one of the things that me and my wife have been seriously talking about is traveling a lot when I get out. When I finally get I feel like I'm getting out of prison. When I finally get out, we want to travel a lot. We want to go all across the U.S. and meet a lot of new people and do a lot of cool things and stuff. And I want something where my income I'll make income without really doing anything.
Mm-hmm. I get it. Like with doing remote jobs, there's nice things. There's tons of them out there, and if you dig through like the Google certificates, there's lots of ways you can make 60, 70 grand a year once you go through the certificates process, and you could just work from your laptop.
I was talking about more investments kind of thing, like building an RV park, very low maintenance once it gets going, but that continual monthly income coming from that instead of whatever else.
Oh, doing active income? Yeah, makes perfect sense. Even buying a plot of land and throwing storage units on it. That's a genius idea, because it's better than renting out, buying a hotel or a apartment complex, because your tenants, you don't have to worry about water. All you have to do is worry about electricity, and you can kick tenants out every month. All you do is come through with the broom, sweep everything out, you're done.
Yeah, that's the thing though. I am in a military town. There's already 700 of those fucking storage facilities. That's done there, done gone. And like, some of these storage facilities are only operating about 60% capacity or less throughout the year. They've built too much of them. There's too much competition.
Yeah. But go for it.
I'll be right back.
Perfect. So at least you have an idea on what you want to do when you step out of the military. Now it's just getting everything all worked out.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. I'm so nervous with the state of the world right now. Jumping into something. Am I going to give myself enough rope to hang myself and be permanently fucked? It
all comes down to what your APR is on your interest, because that's something that's been kind of what's weighing people down, because there's it's still kind of a seller's market, but the interest rates are kind of up there. And are you going to be able to make enough to pay the VIG?
Yeah, you got to pay the piper somehow, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But then what was your what's the word I'm looking for? What is your dedication there in the military? Were you electronics, communications, or
weapons?
Weapons?
I'm a weapons guy. Yeah, I put bombs on planes.
That's always fun. So there's not much out of the military that does that.
Unless they start putting them on 737s, then I'm kind of out of a job.
Yeah, no shit. I have a cousin of mine that went to the Air Force to work on be a mechanic, and nobody's hiring right now for that particular thing. So he's just bouncing around the country painting planes. So that and hindsight's 2020, but it's like you'd almost be with this current situation, his living situation and expenses, probably been easier just to stay in the military.
Yeah, but what is the Benjamin Franklin quote? If you sacrifice freedom for safety, then you deserve neither.
Yeah, that is very true. That is a good point. But we live in a very interesting time. It's good. It could be very destructive or it could be very creative. It all depends on how the powers that be want to navigate the waters.
I'd rather be free in a tent than caged in a house. So,
that's a good one. I'll drink to that one, sir.
A friend of mine up here makes his own wine. Oh boy,
some good stuff.
Oh man, it's good stuff. It's way stronger than it needs to be. For a wine being 13-14%, it's just a little too much, but it goes down so smooth. I don't know what to deal with.
Right. I'm a whiskey guy. I just bought a bottle of Proper 12 Irish whiskey on Saturday. I haven't opened it up yet. We just my buddy and I we record a podcast on Fridays, and we usually open up a bottle. It's one of those things where we drink to enjoy, not to get sideways. And so we have quite the library or collection of different whiskeys that we like to try, recommend. One of my favorites is Jefferson's Reserve Ocean whiskey, and it runs, depending on the vendor. This is why I mentioned that, because the whiskey itself is $250. But why it makes it that so expensive? Because it spends 9 years of its life at sea, bouncing up and down the equator. And it is very soft, it's very subtle, and it's very smooth. And it's one of those things where you can drink it real fast. Now, why I said it depends on the vendor is that my buddy gave it to me. He gave it to me as a hospitality gift, because he came up here over Memorial Day weekend. He crashed on my couch. He spent the weekend. We did some fishing. We smoked up a bunch of food, drank a lot of beer. But as a thank you note, he gave me a bottle of that. So I only paid $70 for it, which is quite remarkable. So it all comes down to your vendor. Some places, like we looked online, and one of the vendors we found was selling it for $250. But that's just because online prices, they're shipping it, tariffs and taxes and stuff like that. So. But actually,
I got a guy that holds a bottle of Blanton's for me every month. So
I don't think I've had that one.
Blanton's bourbon, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're missing out.
Now is that found up in your area?
It's all over the country. It's made in Tennessee.
Okay.
But it has little horses on it. I don't know. I'm not a huge whiskey guy.
Okay.
But that's the only one I can drink. That's the only one I can sit there and put down. I'm more of a wine guy, more of a margarita guy. I like my fruity drinks because they taste great, and I get the liquid courage enough to come on a stranger's podcast.
Oh, that is very true, especially if you mix it with the right Patron and stuff like that. I'm not a tequila fan, but I am a rum fan. I do like my rum.
Well, there's enough 1800 in those margaritas to tranquilize a horse.
Oh yeah, that 1800 is a go-to for me. Our inaugural podcast for Dosed After Dark was a special edition Patron, and Yeah, we drank a lot that night. We
Hey,
finished.
you better be careful. I get to drinking more of this wine, I'm gonna get horny and I'm gonna come after you. All right.
Well, I'm good thing I'm in Wisconsin. So I think your wife will probably take care of, relieve your pent up energy.
No, she'll just beat me.
She'll bust out the strap on and make you your bitch.
Oh yeah, for sure. Call me Peggy for the night, I guess.
That's hilarious. So what do you got going on for the upcoming season here? Because we know you have bear season till July. And what do you got?
Right.
What's coming up in September?
September's elk. September's elk, where I took the whole month of September of leave. I'm burning all of my leave in September to go. Me, the horses, and Trey are going to go up north, and we're going to do a month. Well, until we are tagged out. We are staying in those mountains until we are tagged out. So,
ooh, that's pretty epic, man.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be brutal. You know, just it could be a couple of weeks living in a tent, but it's going to be brutal, but it's going to be fun.
Then you said you also mentioned you're going to get after some coyotes this summer.
This summer's coyotes. This summer I really try to focus on fishing. I try to focus on. We had a lot of really nice trout streams out here, and kokanee salmon is about to start kicking back up. So kokanee salmon or a landlocked salmon that are up here in the Anderson Reservoir. Super excited about dipping down in there and grabbing me a whole bunch of salmon, man, because that's the cheapest salmon you'll find. You just got to pay for gas. So I guess it's about average now, I guess.
No kidding, because however many gallons you burn and how many fish you catch is kind of breaking down your cost per pound.
I'll sleep on that boat if I have to.
You own a boat?
It's a buddy of mine. We always go every year during the summer. We take a few days off and just go trolling the reservoir looking for kokanee. And every now and then we'll get a huge lake trout and stuff like that, and we'll pull up on the bank and smoke it. But freezing those salmon, you know, clean them, process them, freeze them, go great with a little bit of lemon pepper and some spices, man. It's salmon. It's no way to explain it other than it's salmon. Right. It's delicious pink food.
Yes, it is. We're doing a charter fishing event over here in the Lake Michigan again this September, because I didn't get a tag or anything like that. So we're a group of us. We're gonna do 4 of us out there. I have a buddy of mine that's been on my podcast a couple of times. We're gonna go out on his charter and try to bring in some more fish. This last year we went out. It was a learning experience because none of us had any experience actually catching salmon because we don't have the gear for it. I live over the Mississippi, so our biggest fish is muskie, sturgeon, and pike. Now, when you go on the other side of the state, over there over by Lake Michigan, you have so much more opportunity to catch whatever.
The sturgeon fishing in Idaho is strictly catch and release, but I heard sturgeon is actually pretty good if you get to eat one. But
there is a couple of seasons that you can go after sturgeon. It's not a sought after fish. Most of the people that do actually go fish for sturgeon, there's like up by Sturgeon Bay here in Wisconsin, about 2 weeks, where it's pretty much it's a holiday. It takes over the entire town, and they'll go out and they'll cut big old slots of openings in the water, and they'll spear them.
Really?
Yeah, they'll spear them and stuff like that, and then they'll come up and they'll eat them and stuff like that, and they'll measure them and they'll weigh them and such. And yeah, it's an event. I haven't been to one yet, but I've heard it's a lot of fun to go to.
That sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the sturgeon up here, we fish below the dams, like in the dam water and stuff, and you see these guys pulling these 6-foot long dinosaurs out of the water. And growing up in Texas, I've caught lots of alligator gar. Those don't weird me out half as much as these sturgeon do. Like just this gray dinosaur looking creature that comes out with it's weird to me seeing these massive fish, because every sturgeon I've seen get pulled out of that river has been bigger than any of the alligator gar that I've caught.
No shit.
Yeah. Just these massive, you're watching these like deep sea tuna rods getting bent in half.
Yeah.
And this is the Snake River in Idaho. And it's like, what the hell?
I had a buddy of mine. He caught a 43-inch sturgeon here a couple of years ago. This guy's staying 6'8". He was in a canoe on the Mississippi. It took him like 90 minutes to get it up to the surface. They have so much energy.
Jeff, I can barely walk and chew gum at the same time. I couldn't imagine reeling in a freaking fish that big on a canoe.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't have the core strength or the coordination to do that.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Hats off to him. Yeah, he lives further over towards Rochester, Minnesota, so he doesn't get over here as often as I wish he would. But it's just how it goes.
How it goes, man. Life goes on.
Yeah, he's got a couple of kids, and so it really takes up his time. But he still gets out there and go does some deer hunting and such.
Yeah, we got some. We got a lot of varmint hunting this summer coming up. We got a lot of fishing coming up this summer. Then we're going to roll into some elk, roll into some spring bear, spring turkey, and then mule deer season. So I got a few guys that just moved up here and they want to try their luck on some mule deer. I might take them out and show them the ropes, show them where to go. I'm not going to put them in my best spots because who does that? But I will take them out and go let them throw some lead at some animals. That's pretty exciting. Yeah. And it's really nice showing someone who's new to the hunting experience how to hunt. I'm talking about 20, 25-year-old men that have never pulled the trigger on something, taking them out and hunting a deer for the first time. It's really a neat experience. If you ever get the chance, just invite a city slicker up in the mountains with you. It's fantastic.
I just got an announcement yesterday that my aunt and uncle are moving back from California. He wants to go hunting, so we're in the process of trying to get him set up on trying to figure out ways, because they're moving to Nebraska now. It's like it'd probably be easier for him to actually come and hunt with me, but I don't know his limitations and how much he can walk. So I don't think a mule deer will be up his alley, but I figured I could probably put him on some whitetail and either do a crossbow or do a shotgun season with them or a gun season. We'll figure out something to make it work for him.
My brothers, man. My brothers are so mad at me every elk season. They're like, man, you don't invite us, yada, yada. Like, you're all fat. There's no way you guys can keep up with me up in these mountains, man. It's a different kind of, these mountains versus your mountains versus Texas or whatever. It's all so different. I'm talking about like in a 45-minute drive, you're climbing 3,000 feet. And that 3,000 feet of difference just literally takes your breath away. And after being here for a year, I finally got to where I was comfortable enough to like walking around the mountains, doing a couple miles. And it's taken me 4 years to get to where I can do 7 or 8 in a day. And it's just exhausting. I have a nice Tempur-Pedic mattress and all that comfy living stuff. I've never slept better than a 10-mile day underneath the stars on a little blow-up little camping mattress inside of a sleeping bag. I will zonk out, just saw some log. It's so exhausting. It just elevation change. I took my buddy Paul. He's from Illinois. And I took him on a spring bear hunt one year, and boy, we were not having it. We were both out of shape. We had that summer fat come on us. We were both exhausted. We were tired, and we're climbing up really steep hills to get to places where not too many people would go. Like, oh, there's no trails that lead up this way. There's a nice meadow up here. We'll go up here and camp out for a few days. And we get up to that meadow, man, and there's a plastic bottle there. You're just like, oh hell, like someone was here a week ago, and that's pretty upsetting about public hunting, especially a lot of people that abuse the public hunting, the public land hunts. But it's also really nice because I have 9 million acres to play around in instead of grandpa's backyard.
Yeah. You guys are, I'm a little envious about that, because you guys have that ability to walk for miles and not have to worry about seeing anybody. Here we have property lines, we have fences, we have everything that they'll stop you. So basically you got to do a lot of scouting up until that season. And then even still, then you got to look for your pinch points, your transition areas and such, where they're bedding down for food, water. So we as a whitetail hunter, we don't get the luxury to be able to walk around all that much, and the places that we do have public land, or a large amount of them, you're always going to find multiple people. But there's a few places around here that I hunt that are public land that I don't see anybody until the rut. And then after that, then all the deer shuts down because everybody hits it so hard, which is kind of frustrating. And then we have Nicolay National Forest that way up north, but now you're not competing against other hunters. You're competing against bear, wolves, and cats.
That's what it's like hunting in Nez Perce. Nez Perce National Forest is millions of acres of just wilderness, straight up wilderness. No motor vehicles allowed, that kind of thing. You get a lot of horse teams that go up there, things like that. But other than that, there's nobody up there. But come during the rut, it's a choir of just elk mules left and right. But again, you're competing with wolves and stuff. And I've never personally had a herd spooked by wolves, but there's a buddy of mine who tells a story. He's down in this draw. He's at full draw on this elk. Just not a huge trophy elk, but definitely a shooter elk. And the elk looks behind him, and he's like right behind a tree where he can't get a shot. And he's trying to move around to where he can get a shot. And all of a sudden, 3 or 4 wolves just come through this, just tearing through this valley, and that elk just takes off. And it was all 80 yards from him, Like I couldn't. He said it's so overgrown and infested with wolves in that area, it's not even worth hunting, is what he told me. He may be telling me that to keep me out of there, but that the wolf population is insane. The cats, we don't have much of a problem with them spooking really anything. They're way more of a nocturnal animal. They'll eat something while it's sleeping instead of while it's feeding. But the wolves, man, they're getting braver and braver every year. I'm so glad we don't have them down where we are. But up in the Nez Perce, it's about 6.5 hours away. That's wolf country, timber country, real thick timber. And there's actually a river on a place where we're going, that we got mapped out for this spring, this September. It's called the River of No Return. Super excited about that.
Well, at least your life insurance policy is up to date, right?
Yep, it sure is.
Now, I haven't heard any of my friends up in northern Wisconsin ever having the deer spook or wolves spook their deer hunts and such. But they're coming to a place where it's very hard to see a deer, and even to try to see a mature deer is even rougher. Like a basket 8 is a mature deer up north. Down here where I hunt, stuff like that, it's not uncommon. Like a basket 8 is 3 or 4 years old up there. It's like you're lucky to get a deer that's over that 6 to 7 year mark. And Wisconsin has elk hunt and stuff like that, but it's a once in a lifetime draw, and good luck with that. The nice thing is it's like only $10 to get a preference point. But we only have 4 tags to give to the population. The other 6 are for the reservation. And so that's about it on that.
Should have married you a native girl.
It's one of those things where you just never know.
You just never know.
Yeah, you just never know because my wife is from Illinois, so it's like, well, there goes that opportunity. But I don't live near any of those areas where it's interesting in how the population around here, like they'll disperse to the bigger cities or they'll stick close to the reservation. So it all depends on what tribe they're from too as well.
So there's a tribe in New Mexico that I really, really would like to get in cahoots with. They sell Himalayan tar. Himalayan tar?
Tar.
Yeah. Himalayan tar tags in New Mexico. It's all on Indian reservation. Man, that's a once in a lifetime hunt. Be able to, you don't have to travel to New Zealand or whatever to go kill these animals. Mm-hmm. I would love to kill a Himalayan tar. There's something that I romanticize about mountain goats and sheep that just blow my mind. Just watching them just shoot up these hills and shoot up these mountains. I really want to kill a mountain goat here and a bighorn down in Nevada. That's the bucket list right there. Killing one of them.
My bucket list, my primary, the one I'd love to get after is a once lifetime male ibex hunt. But I don't know if I'll ever see that. I may not even see it until I'm in my 60s. So
that's also in New Mexico, right?
Yes.
In the what is it? The Frankfurt Mountain Range?
I believe so. It's one of those things where I haven't even looked to see how much a preference point would cost to get one of those.
Yeah, Steve Vernella shot one. That's the only reason why I know about it. Steve Vernella got a tag and went and shot one.
Yeah, he got a female one because males are once a lifetime. Females, you can get one once every. I can't remember. I know it's a long time.
10 years or such, right?
Yeah, That's what I thought, but it could be less, it could be more, but it usually, I think, safe to say right on that 10-year mark. And he figures like, well, why try to go for one tag when I could try to maybe possibly have a potential of getting 2 tags over a lifetime?
And that's the thing, to the listeners out there, like a little disclosure, I am stupid. And if you find something that is a problem with what I say, and like if I shout out something like it's a fact, it's what I believe to be a fact, but you can prove me wrong. Just yell at Jeff for it first, because I can't handle any kind of
confrontation.
Yeah, any kind of confrontation.
My listeners have been listening for over 100 episodes. They know I'm an idiot, and sometimes I'm on the money. Sometimes I have no clue, but it's one of those things where it's easily researchable, and one of those things I don't want to take away from the podcast.
Right. And I'm getting really excited about this elk season, especially with the large amount of wolf tags that was given out this year. We've had a few people tag out. Their limit of wolf tags has been fulfilled, so they've killed all 30 wolves that they could kill.
Wow.
And it's like, holy shit, I'm getting really excited about, and that's mostly like trapping. They're all most wolves are killed by trapping. The odds of you seeing a wolf and killing a wolf are very slim, very elusive, and as much as a badass hunter people think they are, you're not as badass as a wolf. So they will outsmart you. But that's what I'm really excited about. I think the population may have gone down a little bit. They may have been pushed back into the mountains. And so I'm really excited to see how this elk season turns out. Hopefully you see a lot of new fawns and a lot of a real population increase. I'm really excited about that.
That'll be pretty exciting, man. So thank you. I think we've hit a nice spot where to leave off, man, because I'm looking forward to watching your feed, and hopefully you'll get a bear by the time July comes around, because you only have a few more weeks left.
I'll keep you updated, man, and I'll send you pictures, of course.
Excellent, dude. Well, thank you again, Carson, for coming on the podcast. It's great connecting with you.
Dude, thanks for having me, bro. It's a real honor. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.